Hey, Jegawa Mudaka, welcome to Jenga na Jenga, and today we'll be talking about, or we'll be checking the different, or we'll be emphasizing on what we can call different spiritual paths. We will be diving deep into traditional ones. We can talk about the Taoism, Hinduism, the normal African culture kind of spirituality. So in this video, we'll be going deep into that to explore the different phases of this practice. So we have different, what you can call, we have different traditions among different people in the world. So different people practice what you can call different spiritual practices. And this is based on your location. So we know there is Hinduism. We know about the Indians and their practices. We know that when you go to the African cultures, they have their own ways. We know about the Mayans. So each and every spiritual practice is related on what you can call a location. And what is a location? So a location is where you are born in, where you are born at. If you are born in America, you are American. Whether you are black or white, you are America, because that is a location. So based on the location that you are in, a lot of the time this is what governs how you grow up, the people you are relating with, your environment. So different spiritual practices are based on the location that you are in. For example, if you are practicing Hinduism, then it has to be encompassed or revolve around the practices of the Hindu people. This involves how they are dressed, the deities or the entities that they are acknowledging. So this will be what you call gods in quotes. People reveal different things depending on their communities. There are people who believe in cows, others believe in reptiles. Depending on the location that you are in, this is what determines your spiritual practices. And there's nothing wrong as long as everything that you are following is a correspondence to something. So it's all about a correspondence. Whatever you are practicing, whatever you are following, what is the representation of that thing, aka what is the character? A lot of people say, those people, they worship cows and everything. No. What are they associating, or what you can call the allegories? Most of the time, the language can be a hindrance to the people, but language is just a language. So of course, the reason why different cultures will use different things in their spiritual practices will be, one, the things they use. There are some people who will be landlocked, so maybe their spiritual practices call on them to acknowledge water bodies, water deities, and things like those ones. So for example, if you are landlocked, there's no way you can go to the beach. So depending on what is in your location, that is what they are going to take as a correspondence to the elements that they are connecting to. So let's say, for example, you are staying in a place where it's landlocked and you need to go to the river or you need to go to the sea. So by default, we know that you are going to look for anything that can serve the same purpose in the location that you are in. So you may choose a bucket, you may choose a pond, whatever water body that is there, that is what you are going to use as an element. So the people will be maybe to the rivers, they can go cleaning or cleansing in the rivers, the waterfalls, the oceans. So when it comes to spirituality, the reason people look at it like it's very different is just based on the location. Because on each location that you are in, you are going to use what is readily available to you. People who make crosses, they have a lot of wood. They have a lot of wood even to create houses and everything. So the people who are living in places where maybe you don't have the same resources, there's a shortage of trees. So for them, they may just decide to practice their practices out in the open. So the difference will be, maybe they didn't have the materials to create maybe a shrine or that thing which they are using for their spirituality. Maybe they didn't even have the wood to carve the crosses or the signs or the sigils or the symbols that they are using. So depending on the location that you are in, this is one of the things that creates that, what you can call that difference, whereby when you look at people's practices, they look like they are different, but maybe they are doing the same thing using different things based on their location. For example, we have what you can call common threads. So if you look at a lot of what you can call spiritual practices, you are going to find one thing in common. One, it's like all spiritual practices have got something to do with the worshipping of the sun, or what you can call the daybreak, or the rising, or being outside. That is a common trait. So all across the religions, you find that everybody has got that common belief of the worship of what you call the sun or the rising. That's a common trait. So when you look at all religious practices, when you look at a lot of spirituality, you can be able to pinpoint what you can call common theme amongst all these communities. So then you can decide, okay, so maybe it's not just my practice. You're not being biased. You're looking at other people's practices, and you can identify one singular thing. And then based on your location, you can say, oh, wait a minute. Maybe the reason we are looking at this thing in a different way is because of my location, my observation of the same thing from my location. For example, the transits of the sun is going to make some people create a different calendars or different days depending on how much sunlight is getting to them or how the sun is behaving from their location. So that is even why we have people having different, what you call, different times of the year, different beginnings of the year, depending on the time that they see they see that reaction getting to them. That can be a good example. So take that example from the macro, now bring it down to the micro, the daily practices, the cultures of the people, their way of life, how they count things, how they quantify things, how they bring things together. So that means by default, they are going to curate a different set of ideas from someone seeing the same thing in a different location. I'll give you an example. Let's say you are sitting on a beach somewhere. So your view, let's say we have a boat on the ocean. The view from the beachfront will be very different from someone observing the same from the mountainside, and at the same time it will be very different someone observing the same on the same water body, and then again different from someone observing the same ship inside the same ship or boat. So it is one thing, different perceptions based on location or based on distance. So when you sit down and you look at all religion, when you sit down and you look at all the spiritual practices that we have, that is one of the things that people miss, that maybe it's based on their location. For example, when it comes to creating a language, we are creating a language based on what or that which is observable. For example, let's say people who are coming from a limited place of expression. So in their location, we don't have a lot of things to point at. So in their location, we don't have what you can call a tree, a cup, a boy, a car. So that causes limitation. It's the same thing, but if you don't need to talk about transportation, that means in their language, they are going to be limited. So whatever spiritual practices they are going to follow will have a limitations of words or what you can call expressions. Now compare the same people or another group of people who are, let's say, right in the middle of the city. So they are creating a language in a modern world. So they have computers, Wi-Fi, all these words we never used to have, Wi-Fi, computers in a lot of African cultures. Now imagine now you are creating a religion where you have all these words, 5G, 4G, Wi-Fi, I don't know what this cable, Ethernet, internet. So if you were to create a language out of that, to create a religious practice or what you are calling a spiritual kind of thing, then our language will be more rich. We have cars, we have buses, we have looms, we have lifts, we have air conditioner. So all these things now are going to force us to create a manuscript, keyword, a script or a scripture in the Bible that will be very different from other people. Let's say we have another group of people, they are hunters and gatherers. All they do is hunt, eat, have sex, and sleep. So their language will be so limited. Maybe they don't even have to speak, or maybe all they have to do is use their hands. You see? So their spiritual practice will also be very different because they are limited in language. Maybe what they need to do is create. You can remember that movie where this guy was stranded in the sea, in some island, and he had a football with him. So he was talking to the football. He gave it a reason, a meaning, painted some eyes on it. So maybe for them, all they need to create is one totem pole, and that becomes something that they can revere to or give gratitude every time their things goes in the right way. As to compare to the person who's in the city who has to do so many things to create something, a god or an entity, to showcase the same when it comes to gratitude. So when it comes to religion, a lot of these differences that we have in religions are based on locations, how we create the language, how we are interacting with each other. But when you sit down, basically to it, it's all about connecting to a higher self. It's all about connecting to something that is outside of you, that you feel has an impact or an influence in how you are living your life. So that is how you come to the concept of creating something external of you that is bigger than you. You can call it a god. You can give it whatever name and meaning that you want. So let's be easy. Let's not complicate things. Let's not come from a point of complicating before we do. Let's do things easy. Then we find the complication first before finding the complication, the language, and then bringing it into the spirituality itself. So that is the best way to approach spirituality, if you ask me. So if you have any question, you can ask, you can comment, you can like, you can share. I'm open to even more learning from you. So if you want more, you can reach me, and then we can have more talk on that. Thank you for coming.